Hi, my name is John. My wife and I met when I was 17 and she was 15. She was my first sexual partner, and she already had sexual experience at that time. I was studying at the institute, she was in college. We dated all this time. We lived separately. I with my parents, and she with her grandparents. In 2004, her grandfather died, and starting in 2005, I began to stay with her often, and so imperceptibly we began to live together in a 2-room apartment. My wife and I in one room, and her grandmother in the other. In 2008, my wife got pregnant. She immediately said that she was going to give birth. I was not against it, although I was probably not quite ready yet. We decided that we needed to legitimize our relationship and got married in 2009. A daughter was born. The housing issue arose. My parents have a 3-room apartment, my mother-in-law has a 3-room apartment and an apartment where we lived with my wife's grandmother. This apartment belongs to my grandmother's son, that is, my wife's uncle. My wife said that she would not abandon my grandmother, who raised her, and that we needed to live with her. I agreed. Although now I understand that of course we should have tried to exchange 2 3-room apartments and somehow move to a separate apartment, but what can we do now? All this time my wife did not work. At first I was not against it, then I began to unobtrusively hint that it would be nice to go to work, not even for the money, but to broaden my horizons, or something. But my wife always said that if she worked, she would not be able to pay so much attention to me, the child, and that she doubted that I would help her with the housework. Then my mother-in-law got sick. My wife began to say that she could not work because she needed to help her mother. The last 3 years we argued a lot. But I always considered her my closest and most beloved person, so I tried to smooth out all the rough edges. I always believed that no matter what happened, we had been together since childhood and would meet old age together too. But it didn't work out. Last year my mother-in-law died. After the funeral, when everyone was already asleep, I opened my wife's phone and saw intimate correspondence. I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought it was some kind of joke, and it just couldn't be. But everything was obvious there. I drank and thought for 3 days. Afterwards I decided to do something with the same woman. I asked her if she was ashamed. She said no. It turns out I had bullied her so much that her betrayal was a pattern. Of course, I was surprised by such an answer. I asked what we were going to do next. She said that she loved me and didn't want me to leave, because we had been together for half our lives and there was no one closer to her than me. She said that she would talk to her lover and end the relationship. A couple of days later she told me that she had limited the relationship, and she and her lover had decided that he would have a higher family. A couple of days later, I invite my wife to a restaurant, where we have a drink and decide to try to start all over again. A great evening, a nice walk, sex at night, but I open her phone and see that she sent her lover a selfie at the very moment when we were walking home from the restaurant, and they had a short correspondence. I wake her up and tell her that everything doesn't start all over again like that. She says that it's just a photo, and that it's impossible to just stop communicating with someone after a year and a half. A terrible scandal. I got ready and went to my parents. She cried, begged me not to leave, said that she would never and under no circumstances leave me, no matter what. We didn't talk for several days. But we have a daughter together. We started to talk a little, but only about our daughter. A week later, I realized that I was missing sex. Our sex life was quite regular. I told her about this wife. She wrote that, in principle, she was not against me coming and staying permanently whenever I wanted. I started coming like that. Sometimes for a day, sometimes for a couple. I told her right away that I would only come for sex. We periodically have conversations about her cheating, but I haven't heard any words of apology for her actions, Only that she couldn't leave me, but I could. Many people ask if I cheated. I'll be honest, in 2007 I went on a business trip and my colleagues ordered call girls. Alcohol did its job, I decided to try. After that, I was terribly tormented by remorse for several years. After that incident, I decided to never cheat on my wife again and never cheat again. In March of last year, after I found out about my wife's cheating, I went on a business trip. There we had sex with different girls. I decided that I was now a free man, and I could afford it. Came back and what? That's right, I called my wife again and asked for sex. I can't refuse sex with her. That's how I live. I seem to understand that it's all wrong, that I need to end the relationship. I know that she continues to communicate with her lover and even sleep with him. But at the same time, she wants me to return to the family. And I'm wondering if I should tell my lover's wife everything? On the one hand, I don't want to ruin another family, but on the other hand, I understand that sooner or later the truth will probably come out.
Hi, my name is Max. I am 40 years old, have 2 children, and have been married for 20 years. I have always been a very ambitious person, have achieved a lot in business, am constantly inventing something and working a lot. My wife, on the contrary, is quiet, has no special interests, but she has always happily supported me in everything. I got married very quickly after dating for 6 months after I broke up with another woman. Did I love her? Did I want to prove something to someone? Life spun around. I moved with her to America. We had children. I loved her, but I would like to be with a more energetic, fiery girl. It was boring with her, but I got used to her. We were close in everything and went through poverty and immigration. Whatever I said or did, she always agreed and followed me. But I always lacked some kind of drive and novelty. A boring life, and there was no energy in bed, just sex. And I also liked other women. And I began to cheat on her for sex. I did not want to leave her or destroy the family. I had very short affairs, and she didn't know about it and didn't suspect it. I worked a lot, as I thought, for the sake of the family. There was a lot of stress. And these one-night stands helped me deal with stress. I came home happy. This went on for about 5 years. Then I started a new business. It was hard. My second child was born. I began to pay less attention to her because of work, and not because of the relationship. We argued often, as in all families. Then I accidentally found out that she was texting my boss at work. He sent her intimate photos, and they corresponded for about 6 months. She denied that they had intimacy, rather a virtual relationship, maybe virtual sex or something like that. I wanted to get a divorce. She begged me not to do it, then she started manipulating the children and I gave in. I made myself believe that they did not have a physical relationship. I quit my job and moved to another state. I wanted to live there and visit her, but she and the children followed me. I decided to try to live as is. I started all over again in a different place. The relationship became almost the same. I had one-night stands without emotions, for the sake of sex, but she didn't know. I thought about her betrayal and often talked about it. I think she tried to contact this person and follow his life. But he didn't want to have anything to do with her. I saw it. Then I fell in love with a girl 15 years younger. I told my wife right away and said that I loved this woman and wanted a divorce. This completely pissed her off. She didn't want to let me go under any circumstances. She started putting pressure on the children again. The children suffered. I gave in and broke up with this girl. We had an affair for 3 months. I was worried because I was in love with this girl. I broke up with her, immersed myself in work and just worked day and night. Relations with my wife were restored somehow, but they got worse mainly because of me. She refused to sleep with her, sex was rare. I argued with her. Started scandals myself. I was depressed. She constantly climbed into my bed, but as soon as she achieved it, she stopped being interested in it until I again distanced myself. But I needed this and this provoked my scandals over trifles. I felt that she did not love me and sex and feelings were superficial. Or maybe I myself was superficial and fixated on my experiences about that girl and work. But I was unhappy with her. And then I found out that she had a lover. He appeared a month after I returned to her after that girl. She went to his house almost every day when I was working, they went to restaurants, even went on vacation. She paid for him. He is 10 years younger than her, an illegal immigrant in America, without money and a home. She lied to him that she was divorced from her husband, had no children, was very rich, told him that she was 10 years younger than she really was. She had a long, very emotional betrayal for a year, until I found out by accident. I left home and started a divorce. She started to get hysterical, said that she loved only me, that I was to blame for everything. Then I found out that her mother and sister contributed to all this, advised her to get a divorce. They wanted her to keep half of everything they had acquired, and they wanted to move to America and live on everything ready. Her lover also wanted to marry her to get a green card and money. I thought about it and decided to go back. She would have taken my children, brought her lover home, brought my mother, took most of what I earned over the years, and according to American laws I would have paid her a lot for a long time. She told me everything, gave me her phone with the correspondence and agreed to everything, if only I would stay with her and not get a divorce. I talked to her lover, and he turned out to be a very cowardly and slippery guy. I never saw him again. Our honeymoon began and continues to this day. I began to pay attention to her, and she is happy, but I don't believe her. I can't forgive her betrayal. I can't believe that she was capable of cheating on me and lying for so long. This is the second betrayal and it may happen again. And I think, how am I better than her? I cheated too. Or maybe I cheated because I felt her coldness. I would divorce if it weren't for the children, but she will ruin their lives. What should I do? Pretend that it's a honeymoon, raise children for another 10 years? But I don't love her, I'm used to her, I feel trapped. I would leave, but I will lose the children and everything I have created in my life. But on the other hand, I miss her. Anyone who has been in a similar situation, tell me what to do.
I am Bob. I caught my wife cheating on me with my childhood best friend. This happened after 17 years of marriage. I was working abroad, earning money for her and our daughters. I saved up enough money to buy a bigger house and offered to help my wife look for one. That's when it all happened. I decided to take a vacation to visit family and found love letters between my wife and my friend. It was like a punch in the gut. Of course, they confessed to everything. I broke off all relations with my friend, first collecting from him all the money I had ever lent him. It was doubly offensive that I helped him when he needed support, and in response he treated me so meanly. As for the answer to the question of what I did to my wife, we are still together. Why? I had some bad times in the past and she stood by me like a rock. It was because of her strength and support that I was able to achieve the success I have. She was a very good mother and raised our children well. I didn't want them to lose either of their parents because of a mistake that wasn't their fault. Because of my work in another country, my wife was alone and no one cared for her. That's why she decided to cheat. I consider it a moment of weakness, not a serious mistake. Besides, it was a good chance to test the strength of our relationship. I returned to my homeland, and now we are stronger, closer and more loving people than ever before.
My name is Harry. I am 32 years old. I can't describe my feelings when I found out that my wife had been in love with a guy from her work for a year and a half. I wasn't a bad person, I always tried to do the right thing. I didn't offend her in any way. But we grew apart, our marriage became stale. For a while, I hoped that everything would fix itself, but it didn't. That morning, I turned to my wife and asked what was going on between us. She said that she had a man at work whom she considered her soulmate, and although there was no physical intimacy between them, they texted a lot, went out to lunch and dinner together. At first, I was very angry. I couldn't eat, sleep, or think. Of course, I understood that her behavior was a direct consequence of my lack of attention, but she could also try to change something. In the end, I realized that anger is not the best advisor, and that I can change only one person myself. I forgave her, although it did not happen overnight. I copied all their correspondence to my phone to understand what exactly was happening. 15,000 messages, reading which was like sawing your heart with a chainsaw. Why try to fix anything at all? But I decided to try to be a better husband than I was before. I drove my wife to work and met her after, cooked dinners, washed dishes, spent at least half an hour a day cleaning. It seemed to me that this was the only way to save our marriage. After 4 long months, our relationship began to improve. Have I forgiven her? There is no more pain in my heart. I look forward to every meeting with my wife. We hug, kiss, talk a lot. Both she and I are now much happier than we were in previous years, and I am not going to repeat my mistakes anymore. Was it worth it? Absolutely.
I am Jack. When my girlfriend cheated on me, I forgave her because she didn't know any better. She grew up without a father, never saw what a normal healthy relationship looked like, and cheating in her understanding was considered a normal punishment for an offense, nothing more. I knew that I loved her, and I had to show her what real feelings were. Forgiveness, the ability to accept a loved one, even when he was bad or sad. She didn't cheat out of malice. I'm sure she just didn't understand how much cheating could hurt. My decision literally turned her world upside down. She couldn't believe that someone cared about her herself, and not just her body. To this day, she remains the most faithful and loving person of all I have ever known. I feel her support in everything, receiving love and understanding from her. My trust in her is limitless because I know that she has changed completely. We have been together for 2 years now after that incident, and we are becoming happier every day.